and welcome to the Halifax Humane Society Volunteer Orientation class. This is the class you'll need to take to begin your volunteer service at the Halifax Humane Society. We will also have other classes offered after this class, either in person or online, depending on their availability. So let's get started. So who are we as the Halifax Humane Society? Here are some basics of HHS. HHS is a 501c3 private nonprofit organization. We were founded in 1937. Since we're a 501c3 private nonprofit organization, this means we do not receive funding from United Way, from the kind of umbrella humane societies, or from federal or state tax dollars. In addition, since we were founded in 1937, we are one of the oldest as well as one of the largest humane societies and animal shelters in the Volusia County area. We are an open admissions animal shelter. This is a little bit different than a no-kill animal shelter. An open admissions animal shelter takes in all animals that come through their doors, thus the word open admission. A no-kill shelter tends to turn away animals that it may otherwise have to euthanize. A no-kill shelter, by definition, is a shelter that euthanizes 10% or less of its animal population. So although they are still euthanizing animals, they are still receive that no-kill nomenclature. We are a no-kill shelter for dogs. We are working on our live release rates for cats, and we are getting there. We should, by the end of this year, have reached a no-kill rate for both dogs and cats, while also maintaining our status as an open admission shelter, meaning we take in all the animals that come through our doors. Unfortunately, with no-kill shelters, some simply just don't have the resources to take in animals that are older, that are sicker, that they may have to turn away, and hopefully those animals then come to a shelter like ours. At the end of the day, regardless of open admission, no-kill, whatever a shelter is called, all shelters do have the same objective in mind and the same goal in mind, which is to help the homeless and or abandoned animals in their community. As for us, of course, no animal is ever turned away, and of course, we receive over 6,000 homeless and or abandoned animals each year, so we're receiving a lot of animals at our shelter. We also service over 25,000 animals in our community. This is typically at our low-cost spay-neuter clinic or our red and clinic, and at our color boarding and grooming center. We also support over 36 programs in the name of animal welfare, and we have received some awards for the great work we do here. In 2012, HHS was awarded the award for the best animal charity in the nation, and in 2014, our Red Injure Clinic was nominated for a Classy Award. So back to those animal intake numbers that I was mentioning. Last year in 2019, our animal intake was a little over 6,000. Of that intake, 63%, so the large majority, was cats, 32% were dogs, and we had a nice little other 5% that other compromises animals from pigs, ferrets, guinea pigs, to even iguanas, some snakes, turtles, and other animals like that. So we don't just have dogs and cats here, although that is a large majority of the animals we care for. We do sometimes receive that cool 5% of other. So kind of you name it, we've probably had it at our shelter. So what I was mentioning earlier with lowering our animal intake, you'll notice that last year we received one of the lowest numbers of animal intake that we have received in the last 8 years. So in 2012, we received over 13,000 animals, and by 2019, we have lowered that intake to a little under 7,000. A large part of this is because we've increased our availability of subsidized or free sterilization surgery, so subsidized or free spay-neuter surgeries at our low-cost spay-neuter Red Injure Clinic. Those surgeries have increased by 124% since the clinic opened in 2012. And not only does it improve our care for the animals at HHS, but it improves the care for the animals in the community. It decreases the amount of homeless animals in the community, which means it decreases the amount of animals coming into our care, which thereby means we can focus more resources on the animals that really need our help, the older and sicker animals that are coming into our shelter that really need to be cared for. So as you can see, the opening of our spay-neuter clinic has drastically reduced the amount of homeless and or abandoned animals in the community, and thereby has made our work better and more effective at the shelter. So that being said, we are so much more than just an animal shelter. Of course, we have, as I mentioned, our spay-neuter facility, our boarding and grooming clinic, but we have lots of other facilities between those. So we have 4 main facilities. Of course, we have our main campus where we have our adoption lobby, our admissions lobby where we care for all of our animals that are available for adoption or where we take in stray animals. We also have our boarding and grooming facility. It's where animals can go to be boarded or groomed if their families are out of town. We've got our public dog park on our main campus. There's a small dog park and a large dog park there. Of course, we've got our thrift store that's out in Ormond. They're always taking volunteers there, and you can also go there to just shop around or even bring some donations. And as I mentioned, our Redinger low-cost spay and neuter clinic. All of these facilities are open 7 days a week. They're closed to the public as well as volunteers on primary holidays with some exceptions, although staff is at the shelter pretty much all the time, even on holidays, just to care for the animals, since the animals don't get those holidays off. So those programs and services that I was mentioning, we do so much more than just adopt out animals. We have animals that come in as strays, so we offer a lost and found service. People can do what's called a lost animal walkthrough to see if we've got their lost cat, lost dog, what have you, and it's really great to see people reunite with their animals. We've got our Meet Your Match program at the shelter, so you'll notice a lot of the animals have these colorful rectangular squares on their kennels. It indicates a little bit about their personality. It's our way to try and curb animal return. So we try and offer our potential adopters a lot about the animal's personality. Maybe they're a go-getter, maybe they're the life of the party, maybe they just kind of are a couch potato and they want to sit on your lap and hang out with you and watch TV all day. And so we try and pair people with an animal that really suits their lifestyle so that they don't come back with an animal a few days later and say, oh, this animal was too active, or oh, this animal wasn't active enough, because they've already picked the animal that suits their lifestyle the best. We've got our humane education program, so that means going out to schools, going out to programs, camps, what have you, and talking about HHS, talking about what we do here, and also educating the public about how they can help the animals in their community. We offer our prison pups and pals, as well as our Paws for Freedom program. This program works with the local prison as well as now the local jail to send our dogs over for every season of the program. The dogs go through a very rigorous obedience training program. They come back to the shelter having gone through obedience training, which would otherwise be really expensive for those potential adopters. So those dogs, of course, get adopted very quickly since they're all very, very well behaved. The inmates, on the other hand, get this sense of responsibility as well as a sense of companionship in an otherwise not so great situation. And then finally, 4 of those dogs in the program of 14 dogs go on to become service dogs for veterans in need. They work with a certified service dog trainer and become service dogs for those veterans. So it's overall a great program. It helps the inmates, it helps our adopters, and of course, it helps our dogs to get out of the shelter and get into those perfect and loving homes. We offer animal behavior training classes, so we have an animal behavior manager as well as a behavior team at the shelter to work with our animals that may need some extra kind of care and looking after. We also offer these behavior training classes to the public, and you do receive a discount if your animal comes from our shelter. We do have a foster and transfer program, so our lovely foster coordinator helps to coordinate all of those fosters, helps volunteers foster animals, especially in times of crisis, coronavirus, hurricanes, that kind of stuff. We always need to get animals out of the shelter during times like that, and we've seen some great success with those. We offer pet euthanasia and cremation services. They are at a low cost, so they're pretty affordable for those that need it. And there's so much more that we offer. So as you can see, we are so much more than just a shelter. We do a lot more than just care for the animals in our care, and we do a lot to help within the community. So you might be asking yourself, how do we function? As I mentioned, we are a 501c3 private nonprofit organization. This means that we rely on support from donations, including individual, businesses, in-kind, wills, etc., grants, adoption fees, and of course our fundraising events. And this is really where you all as volunteers come in. We typically need a ton of volunteer help for these annual and our biannual events. These events include Dog Park on Ice, Mutt Strut, Rough Ride, Furball, Yappy Hours, and so much more. We do have a special events and adoption events class. You can find it online, or you're welcome to check out the training schedule and take it in person if those are currently available. And that is a class you will need to take if you would like to help out with any of these events. It's a great way to see how HHS works, kind of get that hands-on work in helping with our events. And it's also great if you're someone who has worked in events in the past. Maybe you're a past event planner and want to help in that way to help us plan our events. So how those donations are used from those events, a large majority of those donations, over 75% of them goes back towards our animals, so it helps fund our animal programs, helps better the shelter to make it more comfortable for the animals. And then a small minority of it, less than 25%, goes back to the people that are running HHS, so towards administrative expenses and then towards fundraising expenses, of course, so we can have these events again. So if you are in my physical class, you will receive a handout of these people, but if you're just taking this class online, we'll go through a who's who at the shelter. So our CEO, Miguel Abi Hassan, our COO is Michelle Perry, our CFDO is Pam Clayton. I am your current volunteer manager. My direct boss is Barry. He is our community outreach director. He handles our social media pages, all of our humane education programs, and all of our publications within the community. Our adoption manager is Mario. Olivia is our animal care director. Alana is our special events manager, so she's the person you'll be working with if you're helping with all of those aforementioned special events. Shannon is our foster coordinator, and Marcia is our animal behavior manager. So these are the people that you will most directly be working with, but of course there's a bunch of always new faces, new staff members, and names to learn. So definitely meet those people, get to know them, and feel free to come to me or to come to Barry if you have any questions or concerns. So our expectations for volunteers. Our goal of volunteer engagement is to help out our staff as well as our animals. Our staff come in every day and they've got a lot of work to do. They have to feed the animals, they have to make sure they're clean, they have to make sure the kennels are clean. They spend a lot of time both cleaning, feeding the animals, and then of course helping guests. So where you come in is really that animal socialization portion of things, the things that our staff maybe can't get to. So that includes dog walking, animal socialization, enrichment, all that good stuff. So you all will be given specific tasks on either a weekly or monthly basis. We have an online sign-up system, and you guys will sign up for your tasks there. Usually each shift at the shelter is a 2-hour time slot. We're open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 10 to 2 on Sunday. So you'll pick a 2-hour time slot after you've completed your training, both classes and mentoring, and you'll come in to volunteer. So this is definitely based on your schedule. We do ask that volunteers help at HHS at least one day a week. This is not a strict requirement. We do understand you guys have other priorities outside of volunteering. You have school, you have work, you have other things that you're doing, and we completely understand that. But I do want to mention that as someone who has worked with animals for a long time, and I expect that a lot of our volunteers do have some experience working with animals, you know that the longer you work with animals, the more kind of calm and confident you become with our procedures and learning how to do the things that we do around here, such as taking dogs out or opening up those cat kennels. The more calm and confident the animals will be in turn around you. So it is to your benefit and to the animals' benefit for you to come into HHS as much as you can. That being said, we have a ton of volunteer opportunities at the shelter. Before I go into these volunteer opportunities, I do want to mention that if you come to HHS and you have an idea of what you want to do, that is fantastic. We welcome, everyone who wants to come and help. But keep in mind, if you try something out and it becomes a little bit too difficult for you, or you want to just try something new, know that we have a ton of volunteer opportunities, and there's a lot for you to try out if something doesn't work out. That being said, dog walking is one of our biggest needs. At capacity, we have about 60 dogs in our large dog adoption kennel. Ideally, these dogs would get out once or twice a day. That being said, these dogs are very excited dogs. A lot of them are bigger dogs. They're going to be, over 40, 50 pounds. A lot of them are just bigger breeded dogs, staffies, labs, those kind of dogs. And so they can be a lot to handle. They also spend a lot of their time in their kennels, which means that when you take them out for their first or second walk of the day, they're so excited to see you. They're going to get really excited. They're going to kind of jump up on you. And that can be overwhelming for some people. So keep in mind, if you do want to walk dogs, we do encourage everyone to go through our dog training if they're interested. But keep in mind that it can be overwhelming for some people, and it can be one of our more difficult tasks at the shelter. That being said, we do have our dog enrichment team. They come in every morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. to distribute enrichment to our dogs. We do have a dog enrichment class if you're interested in pursuing the enrichment side of things. And this can be a great way to interact with our dogs, spend some time with them, help them out while they're at the shelter without having to directly handle them if that might be a little bit overwhelming for you. Finally, we have our A-kennel assistant position. So this is what I like to call a bit of a matchmaking position. It's a great position for people who are good with people as well as good with dogs, who want to take the time to get to know the dogs and then pair them with adoptive families or potential adopters at the shelter to kind of pair a dog with their perfect forever family. As for cat socialization, we have a cat socialization team both at the Halifax Humane Society as well as at our 2 offsite locations. At HHS, the socializing really involves speaking with guests as well as socializing cats, playing with them, giving them treats, spending some time with them, as well as talking to potential adopters and finding that perfect family for the cat. At our 2 offsite locations, the PetSmart on ISB and the PetSmart in DeLand, it's a little bit more involved. Those volunteers go there every day, once if not twice a day. They clean the kennels, they make sure all the cats have their food and water, they make sure all of the kennels are sparkling and clean, and they also help potential adopters. So if you're interested in doing that, we usually have slots once or twice a week if you'd like to get involved with that. Of course, we have our foster program. It's run by Shannon. She's our foster coordinator, and that can be a great way to care for an animal that maybe needs some behavioral attention, maybe needs some medical attention, and just would benefit from being in a home rather than being at the shelter, and also helping them to find their forever home. It can also be great for volunteers who maybe want to try what it's like to own a dog or own a cat, but are not ready for that full commitment just yet. We have our camp. We always are looking for camp counselors for our various camps. We have a summer, winter, and spring camp. For our summer camp, we are usually looking for the most counselors. Our winter camp is usually a day camp, and our spring camp is about a week. And I usually send out sign-ups ahead of time if you want to sign up for these camps. You can sign up as a junior counselor, so between the ages of 13 and 16, or as an adult counselor. Of course, our adoption events and special events, we always need volunteers for those. Of course, as I mentioned, we have our annual and biannual special events, as well as various adoption events that we go to in the community that we need lots of help for. Our vet services team is always looking for volunteers, so if you have previous veterinary assistance or are looking for some veterinary assistance, this can be a great way to get that experience through volunteering. Our boarding and grooming facility across from our main campus is always looking for volunteers, both to help at the front desk, helping with grooming, as well as helping to take the dogs out and just play with them. Our thrift store is also always looking for volunteers. This is great if you have experience in retail or just want to help with the thrift store. They typically need help with organizing, cleaning, going through donations, all that good stuff. And of course, so much more. So again, as you can see, this list is pretty long, but it is also not completely inclusive. We have a ton more volunteer opportunities. Our volunteer program is always growing, and so if you try something it's not really for you, you're welcome to come to me and figure out something that might be a better fit, or you're welcome to just take another look at this list and see what else you might want to try out. That being said, we do have a dress code for volunteers at the Humane Society. We ask that all volunteers wear comfortable clothing that can get dirty or torn, especially if you're working directly with the animals at our events. Even if you don't plan on working directly with the animals, usually we do have animals at these events. So we ask that you wear clothing that you don't mind getting dirty. A lot of our volunteers do have a completely separate wardrobe than what they wear in public versus what they wear at the Humane Society. You can definitely expect, get dirt on yourself, get some poop in your shoes, all that great stuff. Of course, always wear closed-toed shoes, especially when you're working around the animals. Wearing shorts is not encouraged, but it is at your own risk, especially if, again, you're working directly with the animals. The dogs are going to jump up on you. They might kind of inadvertently scratch you. They're just very excited to see you. Same with the cats, just because they're happy to see you. At the same time, it is Florida. It does get hot here. It is hot here most of the year. So wearing shorts is up to you. I encourage all volunteers, maybe if they're most comfortable, wearing some capri pants, something to give them a little bit of a breeze, but also so that they're safe around the animals. We ask, of course, that you do not wear any torn, offensive, or revealing clothing. And we do have volunteer t-shirts for purchase. They're for $5 or for free once you've reached that 40-hour mark of volunteering, but that's up to you if you'd like to purchase a shirt or not. As for signing in at the facility, so this beautiful picture is our volunteer login. It's going to be on the screen on the computer when you walk in. So you're going to sign in on that computer. It's on the greeter computer in the adoption lobby, and this screen is going to pop up. Your volunteer PIN is the last 7 digits of your phone number. So it's your phone number minus that area code, and you're just going to punch that in, press continue. There will be a drop-down menu, and you'll sign in for whatever you're there to volunteer as. If you cannot sign into the computer's down, Logistics is not working, which is our volunteer database, you can use the blue binder beneath the desk to sign in manually, and I'll track those hours for you. All of our hours, as I mentioned, are tracked in our volunteer Logistics database. The hours will not be tracked if you do not sign in. Of course, for events where there is no sign-in, for events for fostering, that kind of stuff, just let me know what your hours are, or let the foster coordinator know what your hours are, and we'll track those for you. If, of course, you need any form signed to track your hours, community service, court order community service, stuff for work, stuff for school, for scholarships, that kind of stuff, just let me know and I will be happy to sign off on it for you. If you need to update your information in your volunteer profile, please let me know. I communicate mainly through email and phone, so please, if you change your email or you change your phone number, please let me know and I'd be happy to update that in our system. Our policies and procedures for volunteers. As representatives of the Humane Society, volunteers are expected to treat all animals in a caring and humane manner at all times, as well as reporting any infractions by others. I expect that since you are all here to volunteer your time, you know this and you will abide by this, but we do expect that all volunteers abide by these rules at all times. We also expect that all volunteers respond to all public requests in a positive and friendly manner. I think it's great when volunteers take initiative, talk to guests, talk to people who maybe look a little bit confused, look like they have a question they don't know who to ask, and figure out who they need to talk to, especially if you're a newer volunteer. That's completely fine. You don't know all the answers to the questions. I still get questions from people that I don't know the answer to, but if you're able to point them in the direction of a manager or a staff member that can help them, that's a lot better than just ignoring them and expecting that someone else will get to them and that it's not your problem. The guests do see you guys, as they see our staff and everyone else that works here, as representatives of the Humane Society. So we do expect that all of you take that initiative, respond to all public requests, and are friendly and welcoming to all guests that come into our facility. As for the health and safety of our animals, if you see a sick animal, please make sure the animal is secured in its kennel and let a manager know with the animal's name, ID number, and any symptoms that you've noticed. Make sure that your animals at home are up to date on their vaccines. Wash yourself and your hands as well as your clothing before interacting with your pets at home if you've been interacting with a sick animal at the shelter. I do recommend that you wash yourself and your hands before you go home regardless, simply because you don't want to bring anything back to your animals. All of our animals are up to date on their vaccines, but they can bring things home like kennel cough or upper respiratory infections to your animals without necessarily knowing. If any accidents happen, animal related or not, please find the nearest staff member or manager for first aid treatment and incident report paperwork. We need to know immediately when an accident happens. So after this, which is your first step to becoming a volunteer, you'll take more classes. As I mentioned earlier, these classes will either be in person or they will be physically at the shelter, depending on whether or not they are being offered at that time. We offer classes and training for pretty much all volunteer activities at HHS. Following this course, you'll be emailed a class schedule for the rest of the month, or if all the classes are online, you will have already been emailed that schedule. They should be below this link on our website for the rest of the classes. You decide how many classes you'd like to take and how you'd like to spend your time here as an HHS volunteer. You can take all of our classes if you're interested in everything, or you can just take a few if there's only a few things you'd like to do. Some other important shelter information. We are open from Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. as well as Sundays from 10 to 2. Volunteers can come to the shelter only between these hours. Exceptions may be made during the holidays and emergencies if we're trying to get the animals out of the shelter as soon as we can. My information, this is my email, volunteermanager@halifaxhumanesociety.org, and my phone number 386-274-4703, extension 319. I'm typically in the office Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, although I can typically be reached outside of these hours. I cannot guarantee a timely response, however, if I'm not in the office. That being said, welcome aboard. As HHS volunteers, you all help to make each day with our animals enjoyable and rewarding. Thank you so much for all that you intend to do with our animals, and thank you so much for offering your help. Thank you for your dedication to the animals, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Again, I can be reached at that email or that phone number, and you are also welcome to follow us on social media for some of our updates about our animals, either our Facebook or Instagram page or on our main website. Thanks so much, and have a good rest of your day.